Coming to you from the Deep South, this is the Blue Collar Leadership Podcast. High-impact leadership is not reserved for leaders, and it has nothing to do with your position, title, or rank. However, it does have everything to do with your character. It's time to climb to the next level and beyond, personally and professionally. Now, let's start making it happen with your host, Max Story.
Hello, and thank you for listening to the Blue Collar Leadership Podcast today. So today we're on episode 457. The title of today's episode is Narrow Your Focus and Stay in Your Lane. So we made it up to part 24, which is chapter 23, Mastering the Fourth Step, in my series on my wife Ria's book, The Ladder of Influence, 5 Steps for Climbing to the Next Level and Beyond. So before we wrap up this fourth step, I just want to just share some random information with you. Ria and I have been super busy as I'm recording this the last basically month. We've been all over the place. We've been in Houston multiple times. We've been in Kentucky speaking a couple of times and on some vacation up there. And we've been up to speak in New Hampshire for the great team at Brett Steele. Great group up there. Mike Rollo and his team. We got to meet them, speak with them for a while. Really enjoyed our time there. While we were there, we actually flew into Portland, Maine. Stayed about 3 or 4 days extra, throwing in a little more micro vacation, I guess you might want to call it like that, but or call it that. And so we enjoyed that. If you've never been up to Maine, highly recommend going up, flying into Portland and heading out from there. It's a really great place. The first couple of days we were there, Ria and I kind of hung around the city, and we walked, I think we had walked almost 20 miles around the harbor and different places we were checking out. But anyway, we had a great time. And we also spoke in southeast Georgia, down near Savannah. We were actually in Douglas, Georgia, and met some great people there. And nonstop, it's just been wide open. So it's been a while since I actually recorded a podcast because I had to record all the previous 5 or 6 episodes before all that started happening, and kind of doing that right now again. Got to record 3 or 4 episodes in advance. Just getting prepared. We'll be actually taking more of a real vacation coming up at the end of June. This episode comes out on June 20th, and on June 22nd we'll actually be leaving for Glacier National Park and then Missoula, Montana. We'll actually be flying into Spokane, Washington, and making our way over to Whitefish, Montana for about 5 days. And then Ria's got a 26.2 mile marathon down in Missoula sometime during the next 3 days. So we'll be transferring, changing hotels from one to the other so she can run that marathon. So we'll have the last 3 days in Missoula, somewhere around the 27th to the 30th of June, something like that. Then we come back home, get caught up again. We do a lot of that, like a yo-yo. We had to get ahead, and then we kind of get caught up relative to our getting ahead, and then we end up kind of behind, so we had to come home and catch up, literally, on all the things that we hadn't been able to do, and just start to cycle over. We got a really cool thing coming up in July for an entire week. It'll be about a 4-hour round trip every day, about 2 hours from our home. We'll be helping some young folks who've been through some tough times, and we're actually they're doing the organization they're a part of. They're doing a summer camp, and Ria and I are going to be a main component of that summer camp. So we'll be up there speaking for a couple hours each day to a group of boys, and then a couple hours to a group of girls. And I think they're all teenagers. I'm not 100% sure. This is something Ria's got more focused on than I am, but I'm going to support her, and I'm going to be a part of it. And we're doing this at no cost. We do a lot of things at home at no cost. Ria does something nearly every week when we're home for the local community and sex trafficking victims and organizations, nonprofit organizations that support women and girls and who've been rescued and different type situations like that. But that's a big component of Ria's life, and she gives back to the community that way. So anyway, we'll have 5 days of that. Really looking forward to that because we'll be able to make an impact with 2 hours a day for 5 days in a row. We'll get to connect with them and tell them some good stuff, tell them some good stories, motivate and inspire them. And I hope the organization really sees the impact of this afterward by the way that those young people change from one week to the next, because they can really absorb some content that way. But the first day we go, all we're going to do is talk to them, tell them some stories. And of course, we'll teach a little because we can't help it. But our main goal is just connect with them, tell them some stories on the Monday of that week. And then Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, we'll be sharing some more stories, but we'll be really supporting those stories with intentional thoughts and principles to help them learn how to think at another level so they can live life at another level. And then on Friday, there'll kind of be like a mini graduation. I think there's going to be about 20 girls and 20 boys in each one of those sessions. And we kind of have a mini graduation where each one of them gets to get in front of the group and share literally what they got out of the week, what it meant to them. And we've done things like that before, and it's pretty powerful to hear them. So let's dive into today's lesson. Again, the title of the episode, the podcast episode, is Narrow Your Focus, Stay in Your Lane. The content focus is chapter 23 from the Ladder of Influence. Chapter 23 is titled Mastering the Fourth Step. So we're going to go ahead and dive in. And Rhea says, you'll know you're mastering the fourth step on the ladder of influence when you are doing 3 things. So I'm going to tell you the 3 things, and then we'll go talk about these 3 things. So the first thing, developing the right people at the right time, in the right way, for the right reasons. Number 2, aligning yourself in the center of your lane 90% or more of the time. And number 3, saying no without hesitation to nearly everything outside of your lane. And that's a big one right there. But I ain't gonna jump to it, even though I'd like to, since I just read it off and it's on my mind. But we're gonna get back to it. Let's talk about the first thing. Again, we're talking about the 4th step. And if I need to remind you of what that 4th step is, it's a contribution, or excuse me, a commitment to developing others. That's what we're talking about. A commitment to developing others. That's what the 4th step is. And we're talking about mastering that 4th step. So part of that is developing the right people at the right time, in the right way, for the right reasons. Because if you can't master this 4th step. You're not going to commit to developing others if you're developing the wrong people. And why? Because it's going to be demoralizing. You're going to be demoralized because if you're not developing the right people, then that means you're likely trying to manipulate somebody who's not interested. You're going to get frustrated and they're going to get frustrated. So you want to develop the right people who are open to receiving development from you relative to your character and your competency. We've already talked about that. If this is your first episode, I really hope you go back, start with episode 1 in this series. There's going to be 30 of them, 31 counting the introduction, and it'll mean a lot more, but you'll get something out of this episode. If this is the first one you listen to, you can go ahead and listen to it, and then maybe go back and start it at the first part in this series and make your way through. But you got to be developing the right people. And there's a lot that goes into the right people. You know, are they on a shared mission? Do they have shared values? Are they ready to grow? And that gets to the next part of that sentence Rhea's talking about. Develop the right people at the right time. Sometimes you may be talking to the right people, but it ain't the right time. They may have something else that's more of a priority in their life that it's got their attention, it's got their interest. So they may be the right people, just ain't the right time. So it don't mean you give up on those people, but you got to have enough intuition to understand about timing. So it ain't the right time. But what's going to help you understand that most often is intuition. So you want to develop the right people at the right time. The third part is in the right way. So you may have the right people, and it may be the right time, but you got to make sure you're doing it in the right way. And the way you do that is a lot of what we already covered back early on in this book is you got to be the right person, meaning character-wise, and then competency-wise, you got to develop them in the right way. What does that mean? It might be coaching, it might be mentoring, it might be enrolling them in a video course like our Blue Collar Leadership Academy. It might be you play a podcast episode like this with a group or with an individual, and you pause and talk about key points, your own and theirs too. Or you might do a book study, like we talk about on our free training. We got a free 45-minute training, bluecollarleadership.com/book study training. And I'm just sharing a couple of links with you, a couple of ideas, podcasts, videos. I got a podcast, Blue Collar Leadership. You listen to it now. Ria's got a podcast, Fearfully and Wonderfully Me, or you can look up Ria Story or go to riastory.com, RIASTORY.com. Click on the podcast link and you can get to it that way. So lots of different ways, and maybe some other way besides those ones I just mentioned. But if you want to master the fourth step, you got to be developing the right people at the right time, 100% in the right way to be highly effective. You may be effective doing it some other way, but the goal, when we're talking about mastering the fourth step, that keyword mastering means you're being highly effective. So develop the right people at the right time, in the right way. And then the last component of that sentence, for the right reasons. This is you think of the first three components, the right people, right time, right way. That's like the Christmas present. That's the package. For the right reasons, that's putting the bow on top. That's what's going to seal the deal. Because developing the right people at the right time in the right ways going to allow you to be pretty effective, but they still add other component for the right reasons. If you want to be highly, highly, highly effective, you got to do what I'm doing right now with you. You got to have the right reason. You're developing people to help them live out their goal and their mission, not your own. It don't matter how much I know somebody. I'm not trying to get them to be what I want them to be and do it how I want them to do it. It's about them, not me. That's what high impact leaders do. That's what you do when you're working on mastering this fourth step. It ain't about you. You may be the CEO or the boss or the supervisor or the team leader or the general manager, the foreman, superintendent, whatever title it might be that you have. And you've actually got a team working inside of a company, whether it's yours or someone else's. And that company has given you a mission. And you're trying to lead this team to accomplish that mission. That's what you should be doing. If you don't do it, they're going to fire you and hire somebody else who will. But when you're working on this fourth step and you got it down to the individual level or even the team level, if you're coaching and teaching and speaking like I do to teams, even inside of your company. I know leaders who do that. You don't have to be out on a speaking tour on big stages at conferences to be speaking to folks. You can do it with a group of 5 or 10 or 20 or 30 or 50, whatever your size your company is in a room for 15 minutes or 30 minutes or an hour, whatever you want to do. But the key to mastering this fourth step, the way that Ria and I are talking about it, is your intention when you're growing and developing them personally is to help them accomplish their mission. That may mean you're helping them prepare themselves to leave your organization. And you may be thinking, why would I ever want to do that? You wouldn't unless you want what's best for those folks. And it don't mean what's best for them is leaving. That ain't what I'm saying. What I'm saying, though, is if they think leaving is what's best for them, it's up to them to get to decide. And it's up to us as leaders to prepare them that no matter where they go, they're going to be highly effective people of high character, climbing the ladder of influence, so that we're expanding our circle of influence, meaning, yeah, we love to keep those people on our team, especially if they're phenomenal. But that's one thing you got to know. You got to know this as you become a leader. If you're a really, really good leader, you're growing and developing other people's employees, because your best folks are going to leave. Maybe not all of them, but a lot of them are going to leave. Think of it like a phenomenal sports coach. They win in championships. They're losing their assistant coaches. Coaches, support staff, all that stuff, they're losing them all the time because they're winning championships because they know how to lead a team well, get good results. So other companies are wanting to hire team members and promote them when maybe you don't have a position to promote them because you got a rock solid team that you've built and you got folks there. And yeah, as soon as somebody leaves, if you're doing this, you got somebody ready to go, plug right in. Or you're doing the same thing I'm talking about. You go into some other team and you going in there and hijacking some of their good leaders that ain't the top coach, but they're somewhere down below and they deserve a position to be elevated and they ain't getting it in their organization, so you offer it to them. It's just the way the game works. High impact people who are mastering the fourth step, they're not concerned with people leaving their company because they develop them. I know some leaders who do that, and the people who leave, they go out and send them business. They may leave my company, go to another company. I'm happy for them. We leave on good terms because I've mastered this fourth step I'm talking to you about, and I'm giving you an example here. But let's say you report to me. I've been growing and going. You growing and going. Maybe you've elevated. Maybe I've promoted you several times, or you've gotten promotions inside of my company or the organization I'm leading or working in, regardless of what level I'm at. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you've been promoted or not. Maybe you have, maybe you haven't. But you're a part of my team, and I've been growing me, and I've been growing you, and I'm thinking about what's best for you. And you get a job, and I'm excited for you because the only reason you'd get that job is apparently you want that job. So I'm happy for you. You leave on good terms. I like you. You like me. And you may go to a different company just like the same company you're in now with me, or you may be likely go to a different type company. But what happens, and I know leaders like this, when you leave, we keep our relationship going. You may send me business. I may send you business. We may become partners relative to the space we operate in, meaning partners in the sense that we support each other with business. We talk highly of each other. We give referrals. Maybe we need the exact same business, but when I get too much business, I send you some referrals. Same thing you do for me. Or you're in a different complementary business, different. Maybe you're doing concrete patios, and maybe I'm building patios, decks out of wood. And then there's other things maybe we do that are the same. We may go out and meet a client. If I'm doing wood and you're doing concrete and they don't want wood, they want concrete, guess who I send them to? To you. And you go out and normally you do concrete, but they don't want concrete. They want wood. You don't do wood, you send them to me. Things like that. Or you get a call in a geographic region that you don't operate in, even though we're doing the same thing, but I do. You refer them to me, back and forth. That's the way it goes. The ultimate point I'm talking about is until you can grow and develop people and you want what's best for them and you're pouring into them like they're going to just be there to support you the rest of your life, but you also know they might walk out tomorrow and it doesn't make any difference. You're going to pour into them the same way. That's one of the components of mastering the fourth step. If you ain't at that level yet, you certainly ain't mastered it. And you could be at that level and you still ain't mastered it because there's a lot of components. So let's talk about the second thing. Remember, I'm going through this list. Second thing you'll know when you're mastering the fourth step on the ladder of influence. First thing was developing the right people at the right time, in the right way, for the right reasons. Number 2, aligning yourself in the center of your lane 90% or more of the time. I'm going to go ahead and say number 3 because they go together. So I'm going to tie them together. Number 3, saying no without hesitation to nearly everything outside of your lane. So you want to align yourself in the center of your lane 90% or more of the time. And you do that by saying no without hesitation to nearly everything outside of your lane. And I remember a long time ago learning from Dr. Stephen Covey, author of The 7 Habits. He was talking one time. He said, how do you say no with a smile unapologetically? He says you got to have a stronger yes burning on the inside. And I agree with that. I say no to things now that I can't imagine I used to ever would even had the opportunity to say yes to. I mean, there's things that I say no to on a regular basis that years ago I would have been jumping to even think anybody'd be interested in having me do that. And I don't even think about it. It's an instant no. Because I got a stronger yes burning on the inside. And what is that? It's doing the stuff I'm doing right now. Growing and developing people. If you know me enough, you know I have a big, heavy, strong background in lean manufacturing process improvement. I very, very, very seldom do it. Right now I can't think that when the last time I've done it at all is. I mean, it's been that long ago. It's been years. But there's a lot of interest. And if I would do it occasionally, there'd be more interest. But I very, very seldom do it. And I'm not even going to consider doing it unless I've done a lot of leadership development with the company that wants me to do it. They got to prove to me they value the people at a high level before I'm worried about helping them improve their processes. My focus is on growing and developing people. You do that, they're going to improve the processes. But if you teach them about lean manufacturing principles or lean construction or just lean principles in general, whatever industry you're in, they're going to excel because they want to. That's how they give back to you as a leader. You lead them right. They trust and respect you. You trust and respect them for the right reasons. Maybe you can talk to me about doing some lean manufacturing, but even then, odds are you're going to get told no. But I'll talk to you about it. I'll coach you and mentor you on it for free. All you got to do is call me, 334-728-4143. It don't mean I'm going to spend all day with you, all night with you, all week with you, once a week, once a month, none of that stuff. But I'll chat with you. I'll dump the truck on you. And then if you're serious about learning about it, you'll have enough information. You won't need to talk to me again for a while. Maybe not even ever. I wasn't talking to nobody. I was just pouring into myself. I was researching and reading and applying. That's how I learned it. And I learned to do it very, very well and very effectively and very quickly. And it led me to be doing what I'm doing now. So Rhea says, as you master this fourth step, which is, again, a commitment to developing others, you'll hone your ability to determine if the situation calls for coaching, which is really asking questions, or mentoring, which is sharing experience or insight. And I'd add on there training, just to put my 2 cents in with hers. So we've got training, coaching, mentoring. Training is really about sharing information. You just go in, share information. Transferring knowledge. That's what training is about, transferring knowledge. And then I typically talk about mentoring second when I'm talking about this content. So mentoring is where you're sharing your experience or insight. So now I'm telling you a story. I'm teaching you some principles. That's the training part of it. But then I'm sharing experiences that I've been through and insight to help you tie the principles to the real world. So I'm usually telling stories or sharing insight related to whatever the person's doing that I'm talking to. So the stories help connect. And then there's coaching where you ask questions. And the point of asking the question is to help the other person find their own answer. That's what coaching is. A lot of people call mentoring coaching. They share experiences and insight and call it coaching. That's not coaching. That's mentoring. Coaching is asking questions. If I'm asking questions, it'd be like, I remember when we went to some training and the whole point was to learn how to coach. And the goal was to coach somebody on how to juggle 3 balls without knowing how to do it yourself. So you had to ask questions. Provoke thought. When you understand the difference between training, mentoring, and coaching, you'll understand why you can help people in an area that you don't know nothing about. I do it all the time because we all And I was able to do that. All of us that were at that event were able to do that. Without knowing how to coach ourselves, juggle ourselves, we were able to coach other people and help them become better at it. Didn't mean we helped them become an expert, but we helped them get better without knowing how to do what they were trying to do. That's why asking questions is so powerful. But the thing is, we've already got the answer inside of us. A lot of times when I do this with people, I'll be talking to them and I'll ask questions and guide them through their thinking. That's all I'm doing is provoking thought. When you're asking questions, all you're doing is provoking thought. The right thought, if you're really good at it, you're provoking the right thought at the right time in the right way for the right reason. Kind of goes back to that other comment we were talking about relative to developing people. But now we're talking about coaching people, but still similar because it's based on principles. But you're just helping them think. And usually when the person gets to that answer that, man, they know they got the right answer, you know what they usually do? They thank me for helping them figure it out. But really, see, I didn't figure it out. They figured it out. All I did is ask them questions. They answered every one of them, or either they didn't. But either way, they got from A to B with their own thinking. I didn't have nothing to do with their thinking. I might have influenced their thinking, but I didn't get to decide what they were thinking. And I certainly didn't know the gazillions trillions of things in their mind that's automatically being processed by their subconscious when they're trying to figure out their way forward. We got the answer inside. We just have to find it. We all got it. Look out the door. Look at your computer. Look at your vehicle. Look at your phone. Whatever it is you got. Look at all this stuff that we have. All these answers for everything ever been produced on this planet was inside of our minds. You give credit to whoever you want to give credit to. But the answer is already in you. You just have to dig it out. And it may not be the final solution answer that you got already in you. It's the next step. But the next step going to get you to the next step. Guess what that step's going to do? Get you to the next step. Get you to the next step. 10, 15, 20 steps later, you have the answer. And you figured it out. The reason coaching is so important is when you following your path, you're bought in. You own it. It ain't my idea. It's your idea. It ain't my dream and mission. It's your dream and mission. So remember, training, mentoring, coaching. You need to hit rewind, go figure out what those things are. If you're leading people, especially formally a leader, you need to know there's 3 different things. And there's books on all of those things. And when Rhea and I speak, we actually do those things, all 3 of them. Even on the stage, when there's nobody really talking to us. We do training, we do mentoring, and we do coaching. Because we transfer knowledge, share principles, we mentor, share stories and experiences, and we ask questions, rhetorical questions. They don't have to be answered, but they get thought about when we ask them. And then that person writes a note about it or thinks about it or goes back to it later, and then they act on it. Saying no to people outside your lane. This is Rhea speaking here. Saying no to people outside your lane gives you the freedom to say yes to the people in your lane. And again, she's not really speaking. I'm reading a quote from her book. Saying no to people outside your lane gives you the freedom to say yes to the people inside your lane. That's something else you got to do as you hone in on what is your mission. As you remember, narrow your focus and stay in your lane is the title of this podcast today. She goes on to say, you may not choose to narrow your focus and stay in your lane, but remember, you'll be less effective if you don't. As a result, you won't build as much trust and influence, she says. And then I'll add on, and if you ain't building a lot of trust and a lot of influence, you ain't mastering the 4th step. Albert Einstein had this to say, a closing quote for today's episode. The high density of the individual is to serve rather than to rule. That's really good right there. So that kind of wraps up what we're talking about in mastering the 4th step. If you mastering the fourth step, you ain't about ruling over other people. It ain't even about ruling over them. And if you treat them right and all that, and you still the boss. No, it's about serving them, helping them live their best life, doing whatever they want to do that makes them the happiest, that makes them the most productive, that helps them go home at night happy to see their family, not frustrated with their boss or their work. All right. Hope you enjoyed today's episode. Join me next week. We'll start climbing on the fifth step of the ladder of influence. Talk to you next time.
Make it happen or someone else will. It might as well be you. Are you serious about taking your career and your life to the next level and beyond? Check out Mac Story's Blue Collar Leadership series books and others, now available on audio, along with paperback and ebooks at Amazon and Audible. Please visit bluecollarleadership.com to learn about Mac's books, programs, special offers, and more. Thank you for listening to the Blue Collar Leadership Podcast.